Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Back Nine Report. Every week, we bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything in golf. If it happened in golf, we have it for you. My name is Carlos Torres, and every week I'm alongside my co-host Fred Altvater. Fred, hi, how are you this week?
Hey, Carlos, I'm fantastic. I'll tell you, it's been beautiful up here. We did have a rainy day, but fall is setting in nicely in northern portion of the United States. Shorter days, cool nights, putting an urgency into getting those last few great days of golf in before the snow and cold set in a couple of months. Plus, I'm getting a little restless after not traveling much this year. I'm ready for a southern golf swing. So before all of that, however, I will be at Firestone at the beginning of next week and hope to have a report on to our listeners about the new stay and play packages that historic golf facility is offering. But before we get to that, this week in golf, Hudson Swafford rebound from a foot injury appears to be complete as he won in the Dominican Republic. Ernie Els, Patty Harrington, Nick Price, and Catriona Matthews win awards from the R&A. Plus, Mike Davis is leaving his post at the USGA, and we discuss his legacy. Is he leaving the USGA in good shape? Where is it at? We're going to talk about that in the practice range tonight. And as always, we've got a lot of golf to talk about. So, Carlos, let's go.
We do, and the thing with that with Mike Davis is, a lot of people have talked about him on various accounts, right? So we're gonna try to bring you, hey, this is what he did, this is where we think things went, and what we expect from him. So we're gonna cover everything. Hey, we do things massive, wall to wall, top to bottom, so we don't leave any stone unturned. But anyway, every week what we do is we start with our weekend backspin, where we do our recaps of what happened this past weekend on the major tours. And the first one we're going to talk about was on the PGA Tour. You mentioned Hudson Swafford. Hey, he had to survive a back nine slump, and he came back with a birdie on the 71st hole and won his second PGA Tour title. He was 5 under par after 8 holes, and seems to be, he was coasting to victory, but then came Mother Nature. Hey, double bogey at the 13. Then he dropped another at the 15, and that left him to fall into a tie for the lead. But hey, he regained it, and it was in a stunning iron into the 210-yard par 3 17, and he converted from inside 10 feet. So that was amazing for him. That did it. Swafford par the 18th and beat Tyler McCumber by 1 and Mackenzie Hughes by 2. After Mackenzie had to bogey the final hole. Now, the Swafford finished at 18 under par. He was the only man with 4 rounds in the 60s. He was the best player there all week. Swafford right now is a 33-year-old native Floridian. He earned his second PGA Tour title and the first since the Career Builder Challenge in January of 2017. He gains job security for 2 years. After some uncertain times, he had a rib injury before having surgery on his foot last year for a broken bone. So definitely wasn't the best of times for him. But, he also recently became a father. Did not have many events left on his medical exemption prior to this win here in the Dominican Republic. So for him, a great timing for it. And he definitely looked, yes, this was not a top-notch field, but he still beat some pretty good players. Like we have said, if you win, it doesn't matter where it is. You have what it takes. And now for him, he's rewarded from going up in the rankings, Fred. He was 341st and now 165th. So good thinking and good congratulations for Hudson, overcoming all those injuries and bad times for him.
Yeah, Hudson Swafford was a highly touted rookie. I remember talking about him, Carlos, years ago when he left Georgia to come to the PGA Tour. He was a 3-time All-American selection for the Bulldogs, was SEC Freshman of the Year, was a 2-time All-SEC first-team selection, and was forced to sit out a year due to a shoulder injury even. He qualified for the U.S. Amateur in 2006 and the U.S. Open in 2010, even while he was still an amateur. Former teammates at Georgia included other PGA Tour winners. Harris English, there's a name we've been talking about. Keith Mitchell, who's had a win or two. Russell Henley has played really good at times. And Brian Harman, the short guy with a left-hander, he hits it straight down the middle. He's won once or twice. So he comes from a really high, really good pedigree of golf. He's been playing at a high level for a long time. He joined the Korn Ferry Tour in 2012, made the cut in 14 of 26 events during his rookie season, posted one win, but finished at number 27. So he didn't get a tour card, a PGA Tour card his first year. So he came back, played the Korn Ferry Tour again. He did finish inside the top 25 that year, ended up playing on the PGA Tour in 2014. He ended up outside the 125 in 2014 at number 146, had to go down to the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, or the Web.com Tour Finals as it was back then, ended up finishing up inside the top 25 and kept his card for the PGA Tour. 2015, he finished in the top 25 6 times in 28 starts, ended up number 81 in the FedEx Cup standings. Good year. 2016, more positive, ended up a little bit higher, ended up at number 64, so he keeps climbing. His progression continued in 2017. He had 4 top 10s, including his first win at the Career Builder Challenge out in Arizona. He made it to the 3rd round of the FedEx Cup playoffs, into the season at number 38. So he just continues to climb. But then 2018, 2019, he had to have the surgery on his foot, had a bone that was broken and it actually was dead in his foot. They had to take it out. He couldn't walk. So he's been coming back from that. And so he's finally back. And like you said, he was close to the end of his minor medical extension. He had to, in 7 starts, he had to earn enough points to equal the number 125 from last year in the FedEx Cup point list, and he did that. He still had 2 events left, so now he's good. He's got a 2-year exemption, guaranteed a good spot in the FedEx Cup playoffs next August, and can relax, just play his game for the rest of 2021. You know, you made a comment earlier there, Carlos, that they had 4 rounds in the 60s. You know what? And here we are, playing in the Dominican Republic. You know, years ago, back in the 70s, I don't know if you remember this, but back in the 70s, when someone would shoot 4 rounds in the 60s out in the desert, you know, like in February, that was fantastic. That was big news. 4 rounds in the 60s, right? Nobody did that. You might shoot a 67, then a 72, and you know, then you might have a 69 or a 71. You might have 1 or 2 rounds of 60, but nobody shot 4 rounds of 60s back in the. Now, every week, we've got 1, 2, or 3 guys shooting all 4 rounds of 60s. That's just how much better these guys are today. The golf courses are tougher today than they were back then, and the players are just better, Carlos.
They are, and Hudson Swafford. I mean, like you mentioned, you talked about him a few years ago. Unfortunately, he suffered some injuries. He had to come back, but hey, he found his winning touch on time this weekend, and he looked really, really good. I mean, I cannot say if this is the start of something better, but at least he really looked really, really good. So we'll see moving forward if we can see more of him. I saw him play once in the Puerto Rico Open, and he definitely has always been a player that has talent. So maybe this is it. I mean, he became a father recently. That's a reason for joy. Maybe he's just had a very good place at this moment, and that's what it's all about. Sometimes it just takes somebody to be at the right place in the right set of mind as well, not only physically but mentally, which we know here in golf and in every sport is really, really important. So congratulations to him. I mean, very, very good earned win. Now let's talk about another American. This time we're going to talk about John Catlin on the European Tour, because he had to overturn a 4-stroke deficit. They were playing at the Galgram Castle Golf Club. He fired what was a sublime final round 64 and won his 2nd European Tour title of the season. He won the Dubai duty-free Irish Open. So Catlin had to hold off the challenge of former world number 1 Martin Keimer to win the Andalusia Masters earlier this month. So in the same month, we already have Catlin winning 2 two tournaments. He was for the day 4 strokes behind the 54-hole leader, Adam Rye, which is a young player that we have been saying also for the past few years. Hey, look out for him on the European Tour. That's another player that seems to be, putting things together. But Catlin quickly moved up the leaderboard as he made the turning 3 under par. He went for it right away. He signed it for a 10 under par total after what was a stunning 3-wood from 268 yards. That left him with an easy 2 putt for his 7th birdie of the day at the last one. Right. Hey, he birdied 17. He moved to 9 under. He needed a birdie to force a playoff, but seems like the pressure got to him because then he hit his second shot errantly, found trouble on the left-hand side of the green, drop a shot, handing Catlin his second victory in just 4 weeks. Australian Maverick Antcliffe and Thailand's Jazz Jane Watananond share third place on 7 under par, while the Swedish duo of Joaquin Lagergren and Oscar Lindgren finished tied for 5th. So Fred, Catlin now, I think that's a name that we're going to have to keep in mind because he moves up to a career 84th in the world. And we've been seeing here in the European Tour some players that really haven't had the chance to try to shine because usually you see the big names there, like everywhere else, just topping the leaderboards. But ever since we saw the retake of the European Tour, what we're seeing is like resurgences, so like Martin Keimer. I mean, we've seen Brandon Graves, we've seen a lot, George Coetzee, some players like Thomas Dietrich, Thomas Peters. They are just starting to play again really, really good. And I think it's a good thing that we haven't seen those big names there because these other players, we're starting to see how they gain confidence. And maybe this is what Catlin needs. And maybe we'll see him here in the near future on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, because the travel's been restricted of going back and forth between Europe and the United States, the big names are just staying. The big European names are just staying here in the U.S. They can't go back and forth because of all the self-quarantining and things like that. So it's giving these guys, these other guys in Europe, a chance to play in these events, win, make some money, and learn how to win. So, and this guy Catlin, I mean, he's not a young guy. We talked about him, like 3 or 4 weeks ago when he won in Spain. He's been around a while. He had several wins in Asia. And so he's getting his chance here in Europe, and he's playing it really well, and he's making the most of it. So Sunday was the best weather day at Galgorm Castle for the Irish Open. The weather was pretty dicey, a lot of wind, a lot of cold, a lot of rain. Did you see the picture of the guy? Evidently there's a farmer that owns some land right beside the golf course, and he took his chair out by the fence, set the chair down, and he's surrounded by his cattle. Did you see that picture? That was hilarious. I love that. I love that. He's just sitting in his backyard in the pasture field watching the golf along with all his cows. But this was the second win for Catlin since golf returned in Europe. He entered the year with no status on the European Tour. The win at Andalusian Masters was less than 4 weeks ago. This win thrust him clear up to 14th in the race to Dubai and 84th in the world. So he's getting very close to that top 50. If he has another, really couple more top finishes, he's going to be in top 50, able to qualify for the big events. So you know how Brooks Koepka did it. He went over to Europe and, made his way to the U.S. Well, that's what this guy's doing. He's been a pro for 7 years. He's nearly 30 years old. Some guys just mature a little bit later. He had a successful run the Asian Tour in 2018, 2019. He's winning over guys that maybe aren't household names, but like you said, a win is a win and it breeds more winning. So, maybe we can believe that maybe he's a little bit better than these guys, and maybe he's going to start to believe it, more importantly. And maybe he can keep up with these big names. Maybe he's ready to come to the U.S. and play in some of the bigger events, Carlos.
It's very probable, and that's the thing. If you see, like you're mentioning, he's taking his time to really come into his own. He took it on the Asian Tour and was successful there. Now he's moving up to another another upper echelon on the European tour. Even with not the big names being there, you can make the argument that it might be just a little up above right now of what the Asian tour would be. So he's progressing on it. He's just taking what he learned on the Asian tour, applying it here. Now, of course, one the big boys are going to be playing, but hey, like you mentioned, confidence is everything here, and he's beating who he has to beat. You know, if he wouldn't be good enough to beat them, it doesn't matter what the field is, he wouldn't beat them. So, good thing for him. And like you mentioned, he might be starting to believe in himself more and more. And what he did in Andalusia was holding off a big charge from Martin Keimer, and that should tell him. And here he came back. From four down to win. So we see him holding on now, coming back down from a big four-stroke deficit. So he's learning how to grind and win. So definitely a good sign for any golfer. Um, and talk about grinders. The Corn Ferry Tour is really full of them, full of grinders, right? And Jared Wolf has to be right up there, right up that list. I mean, he's high up on but he was high up on another list Sunday because he won the Wichita Open, which was his second title on the Corn Ferry Tour for 2020. And it was hardly a blue day there in Wichita. I mean, after the first six holes, a storm moving to the area, creating a battle for the end of the round. So at one point, the players were even pulled off the course for weather delay as gusting winds and rain blanketed the course. But Wolf knew he'd have to keep his head down, and he did. He made an eagle on the par 5 14th, and even though he backed that up with bogeys on the next two holes, so he got even back in it, it was enough for him to bring home the title. He fired rounds of 63, 65, 65 to open the week at Crestview Country Club, but he closed out his week with a final round of 71, which was just enough to keep him one shot ahead of hard-charging Canadian Taylor Pendrith, who is really playing really good on the Corn Ferry Tour. So Wolf is now up to number 4 on the Corn Ferry Tour regular season's points list. And here's another player who's not a young player. I mean, he's an 11th year pro. He has won 3 times on the PGA Tour Latin America. So he has done his time on all those other tours, and now he's here. He also won Fred the Bahamas, the Great Abaco Classic at Bahamar, but that was back in January. But hey, he joins now Davis Riley as the only 2 Corn Ferry Tour players that a third win would give them an instant promotion to the PGA Tour. So here's another player that is playing really well, is going up the ranks, doing his time on the minor tours, and hey, kudos to him. 2 wins in the Corn Ferry Tour, one more. We'll see him soon in the PGA Tour.
Yeah, that was kind of the point I was going to make. It was windy in Wichita, which it's probably always windy out there, right? But it was windy. They had a little problem, but so he battled the elements, got it done. Like you say, he's got 2 wins now this year. One more, he's going to be on the PGA Tour. So he's getting very close. We got like we've been saying, there's about 10 guys right now on the Corn Ferry Tour that really have earned the right to be on the PGA Tour. But just because of the way this COVID thing is, they're still down there playing the Corn Ferry Tour. They're still doing their thing. They're just going to be more ready when they finally get to the PGA Tour and a little bit more hungry to make a few more bucks. So it's probably a good thing. It's probably bad for them because they're not making near the money they would make if they were up on the big tour. And I know that the PGA Tour is trying to find places for these guys to get in and get some starts on the PGA Tour, even though they're still officially on the Corn Ferry Tour, because they deserve to be there, Carlos.
They definitely do. And we're going to talk about that now pretty soon in the forecall because on our first, and with that, we'll wrap up our weekend backspin or a recap of this past weekend's action. And we're going to get right on to the forecall, which is a preview of what's going to happen this weekend. And we're going to start with the Sanderson's Farm Championship on the PGA Tour. And you can say from one boosted event to another because the tour is returning to the States this week for the Sanderson's Farms Championship. Now, just like the Corrales Punta Cana Championship that was this past weekend, this event got vaulted into full status last year. That means that a full 500 FedEx Cup points is up for grabs for the winner. So as a result, you do see a few bigger names show up to the Country Club of Jackson, but most of the superstars are still resting after a busy end to the 2020 campaign, followed by the US Open at Wingfoot just a few weeks later. So we should expect to see the biggest names buck back up in Vegas. But hey, back to this week. We have a full field of 144 golfers prepped to go into Jackson, Mississippi. As usual, the top 65 in ties will make it through the cut line to play in the weekend. Uh, reigning PGA Tour Rookie of the Year Scotty Scheffler is returning to action after he tested positive for COVID-19 just before the U.S. Open. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see what type of shape and form he is, because right, that this players, depending on how he was, because there are some that are asymptomatic, others that don't. So it seems like it didn't hit him that that bad if he's already back. Now other players like veterans Sergio Garcia, Henrik Stenson, Louis Oosthuizen, Zach Johnson, Luke Donald, and Steve Stuart Singh, recent winner, are among the veteran names to be here looking for. Sung J M, Will Zalatoris, Davis Riley, and Sam Burns are the young guns I will be looking for. And especially, hey, Will Zalatoris and Davis Riley. You were talking about the PGA Tour trying to find places for those high placed players on the Corn Ferry Tour to play. And this is why when we talked about the Corn Ferry Tour in a little while, Will Zalatoris and David Riley will not be playing. They're playing here up in the PGA Tour. They're still giving them the chance. Davis Riley's the other one in the Corn Ferry Tour, Fred, that has to win. So Will Zalatoris is the leader there. Davis Riley is number 3.
Yeah, and in the big scheme of things, this is probably really good stuff, right? I mean, we had that dash, that mad dash, from the end of June all the way through the FedEx Cup playoffs of all those big events. And then we had right after that, we had a week rest off, and then we went to the US Open. So the big names played a lot of golf in a short period of time. And so these guys didn't get the chance to do that. So now they're getting a chance to play in some of these PGA Tour events. It's only a 6.6, and I say it's only a $6.6 million purse, right? Only. And it's not a 12 or $15 million purse like some of those big events, but still, for some of these young guys to win and get a $900,000 first place check, but more importantly, they're getting the experience. Also, they're getting a chance, if they get that win, to get the 2-year exemption, or they're getting high up and getting those FedEx Cup points and maybe earning that special temporary exemption so they can pick up more sponsors exemptions. So there's a lot riding for these guys that are playing for this. So maybe you're watching and you don't recognize the names, but if you're watching on TV, watch these young guys, because that's what's interesting, to see how they handle the pressure. Are they able? They're really trying to get that win in those top 10 finishes to get those points and that money, because they need it. So, these are fun tournaments to watch if you're thinking about that, Carlos. You're on mute, Carlos.
Sorry about that. And definitely.
Your mouth's moving, but nothing's happening.
Yeah. The good thing is that, we turn from one to the other. So they never saw me talking and not saying anything. But now you do. So, hey, definitely we do like to see those mix, because like I mentioned, there's going to be some veteran players, which also are trying to get into shape, and try to get any sign of winning form, like Sergio. It's been a long time since we've seen him.
He's still playing
He
golf.
still does. He still does. And Henrik Stenson, another player that he's trying very hard to get back into shape. Zach Johnson, Louis Oosthuizen. Louis is playing really, really well. So that's a player to look for here. Luke Donald, Stuart Sink won recently. So those are players that you see on this type of events right now with this type of field, that it's nice to see them do well, and it's the opportunity for them to try to get a good start on the FedEx Cup points list for this year. So we'll see. It's really going to be interesting to watch this one. Now, Interesting also, across the pond, Bernd Wiesberger. He will be joined by a field which includes 7 major champions, more than 20 former Ryder Cup players, and a host of grown home stars. Uh, when he defends his Aberdeen Standard Investment Scottish Open title, it's starting this Thursday at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick in Scotland. Joining him, Wiesberger, who won 2 Rolex Series events last year, will be the reigning Open champion, Shane Lowry, double major winner, Martin Keimer, playing really good, who is seeing a resurgence on his game, definitely. 2013 U.S. Open champion, Justin Rose is going to be there. 2016 Master champion, Danny Willett is going to be there. Former Race to Dubai winner, Tommy Fleetwood, will also tee it up. I mean, it's really nice. And fellow Ryder Cup heroes, Ian Poulter and Lee Westwood, while the 2021 Ryder Cup captain and three-time major time winner, Patty Harrington, and victorious 2018 captain, Thomas Bjorn, they will be there too, at the East Lothian venue. But you know who won't be joining them? Fans. They won't. And it's funny because last week we were like, hey, talking about the European Tourist announcement. There's going to be about up to 600 spectators that would be allowed on the course. It's going to be Saturday and Sunday. 650. It doesn't sound like much, but hey, at least they will be there, playing sessions. It was going to be a pilot event for the return of larger gatherings. We were excited and all that. And then they just the next day, boom. If they would have just let us know, we wouldn't have said this anyway. But anyway, that decision was annulled via an official statement amid concerns that a second COVID-19 wave is impacting the UK. The UK Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, declared on Wednesday, see, it was the day after, that supporters may not be allowed to attend events until next March because of concerns related to the health crisis. Now, for the PGA Tour doesn't intend to welcome a limited number of fans back to tournaments until early 2021. So, again, I know there's I mean, we've seen in football here, which is allowing a limited amount, but a much more than we would see in a golf event in a single day. And yeah, we saw the Tennessee Titans and all that, but hey, it's been really, and even college football, we're seeing people go there and all that. So I just don't know why. I mean, if you take the precautions, let everybody take their own, and keep them separated as you use, why you just don't allow them to come back, even in a limited fashion.
Well, yeah, we discussed this about a month ago or something on the practice range. We dove into it, and as you know my feeling. I think the whole thing is stupid, but yeah, it was kind of funny. We talked about this last week. They were going to allow 650 people on the golf course. Oh boy, that shouldn't have any trouble keeping people away from that. And Carlos, we go back. They were the Memorial was supposed to be played with fans. It was going to be the first sporting event with fans, right? Back a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, and they quashed that a couple of weeks before. The players actually were the ones that said, "Hey, we don't want to do this." And so, as it turned out, they were probably right. It's going good. Everything's going good. So why rock the boat? But I had to laugh. I watched a little bit of the Cleveland Browns on Sunday, and they were playing at home, and they allowed 6,000 fans. Right, 6,000 fans. So the stadium holds about 80,000. 6,000 fans in an 80,000 fan stadium. That is, why couldn't you allow at least 30,000 for goodness sake? You can spread them out all over. The families could sit with each other, whatever. What a joke. What an absolute joke. You go to Walmart, you go to Myers, you go to the grocery store. There's people all over. You're walking by people. You can't help it because there's so many people in there. I just, people are wearing the mask. They're taking care of themselves. I don't see the surges around here of problems. There's no problems with the hospitals. I don't know why they're making such a big deal about this at golf tournaments when you're outside. I do not get it. I just don't understand. And even when we talked last week, 650 people on an 18-hole golf course, that's like nothing. you know, you could have 600 people around one hole and you wouldn't think there's anybody out there. So I don't know, Carlos. It just seems stupid to me. But there's my little rant for the day. How about that? You got me going.
See, I feed you with that one.
I
I
know
knew you were gonna go for it, so I
jacked me up.
just,
I know.
you know. Anyway, this weekend, the LPGA will visit the Jersey Shore for the Chop Right LPGA Classic presented by Acer. It will be played at the Seaview Bay Course in Galloway, New Jersey, and the purse of the tournament is going to be $2 million. Now, last August, the officials of the Chop Right LPGA Classic, they announced that the annual tournament would be played without fans. Okay, a decision made after consulting with state and local health officials and the LPGA. But as part of the announcement, which includes the cancellation of the annual Pro-Am competition, officials said that at the Seaview Resort in Galloway, New Jersey, would be expanded this year to 72 holes from its customary 54. So a good 120 players field is at hand there. Among those in the field are 8 of the top 10 in the Rolex rankings, including number 2 Kelly and Nelly Korda, number 4 Brooke Henderson, and the defending Chopra champion, the number 10 currently Lexi Thompson. Only world number 1 Jing Young Ko and number 3 Danielle Kang, who seems to have slowed down a bit from that tear that she was doing, will not be playing from the top 10 players in the Rolex rankings. Now, also in hand are the winners of both majors this year, Sofia Popov at the AIG Women's Open and Miriam Lee at the ANA Inspiration, as well as last year's AIG winner Hinako Shibunu. So Fred, ShopRite has raised more than $35 million for regional charities during that time that they've been playing here. Joe Sheridan is the president and COO of the parent Wakefern Food Corporation. He said that the commitment will continue this year, given the demand on food banks and other charities amid the pandemic. So that is good to see, Fred, that at least that part of such an important part of the golf tournaments is being taken care of, and that's something that we always applaud for.
Yeah, we talked about that. It's amazing to me that the PGA Tour, the LPGA, all the tours are keeping up their fiscal and financial commitment to these charities. So that's a really good thing. They've done a really good job with that this year. This just ended today, Carlos, the caddy for Jacqueline Lee, who is out of Ohio State University, by the way. Jacqueline Lee, her caddy tested positive today. So he had to begin his 10-day quarantine. So Jacqueline also withdrew because of close contact. So they're going to do their quarantine period and then get retested. So they're out of the field. Lexi, as you said, is defending this week. Really strong field. 8 of the top 10 in the world there. Plus you've got Sophia Popov, who won the women's British, and you've got Miriam Lee, who won the ANA, and you've got last year's women's open Hinako Shibuno there. So a really strong field for this thing. $1.3 million total purse, $195,000 to the winner. Going to be all on Golf Channel pretty much in the afternoons from 1 to 4, pretty much every day, all 4 rounds. Last 5 champions in the field: Lexi, Annie Park, NK Kim, IK Kim, and Anna Nordquist. So, like I say, just a strong field. This year's winners: Austin Ernst, Georgia Hall, Miriam Lee, Stacy Lewis in the field, Hyun Park, Gabby Lopez, Inby, just Madeline Stykes. You know, this should be a really good tournament. And just because, Carlos, it's never too early to start talking about the Solheim Cup. I got the top names right now for the American team. You got Daniel Kang, number 1, Nelly Korda, 2, Marina Alex, Brittany Altamari, Stacy Lewis, Cheyenne Knight, Lexi Thompson, Austin Ernst, Jessica Korda, Andrea Lee, and Jennifer Song and Cindy Clanton are the top 12. Right under those, you got Amy Olson, Angela Stanford. Every year, Angela Stanford is right there. We never talk about her. She's always right there. She's like a top 10, top 25 machine. And then Megan Can. So it's just a little less than 1 year from now, Carlos, the Solheim Cup. So we're going to be talking about that a lot. And also because it's right here at Inverness in Toledo, Ohio next year, Carlos. I didn't know if you knew that, but I'm just bringing it up.
I'm gonna be there. That's my commitment. We're gonna be there. We're gonna be broadcasting live from Toledo, Ohio, and we're gonna have that done for you guys. We're gonna have great coverage of the Solheim Cup. You'll see that. I'm committed 110% to that one. So it's gonna happen. We'll make it happen. Hopefully they'll allow us to be.
They will, yeah. I'm gonna go kick the door in. They're letting me in. I can't stand it. I was shut out too much this year. I've got to be there next year. Got it.
All right. Hey, let's talk now about the Corn Ferry Tour, the Savannah Golf Championship, because this tournament was originally scheduled for April 2nd to the 5th. Now, they will be playing this weekend at the Deer Creek Golf Club in the Landings Club in Savannah, Georgia. They'll be playing for a purse of $600,000. Like I mentioned before, the Tour Points leader, Will Torres, will not be here, as well as his roommate and Tour number 3, Davis Riley, as they will be playing on the PGA Tour this weekend. But the complete rest of the top 25 is present, which includes the defending champion. This is weird. The defending champion of a Corn Ferry Tour tournament returns, and that's Dan McCarthy. Now, number 2, Taylor Pendrith will be trying. He's playing really good. I mean, even you saw him play really good at the U.S. Open. Seems like he's kept that form. He will try to then reduce the 281 points lead that Salatoris has on him. But Fred, since Salatoris nor Riley are playing, I will continue to keep my eye on my other top player to watch on that tour, Brendan Wu. He's currently number 7 on tour with a win and other 3 top 10 finishes in just 9 career starts.
Yeah, I really like Brandon Wu. He played really well in the U.S. Open. Watched him there a little bit. So you got Sam Burns, as you mentioned. He won here in 2018. He's in the tournament. Danny McCarthy is there to defend. Along Jared Wolf is going to be in just coming off that win in Wichita. He's going to be here in Savannah. Ben Calls, who's been on, it seems like Ben Calls has been on the Corn Ferry Tour for like 10 years. He's been out there for a while. He's got 9 top 25s this year. So he's been playing pretty good. He's just not, he's going to win one of these things. You keep knocking on the door. You keep making those top 25s. You're going to get yourself up there. Also, a guy to watch, Carlos, is Cameron Young, who played his way onto the Corn Ferry Tour. He had no status, ended up playing his way on the tour, and has been playing very well. He's got, like 4 top 15s or something like that. So he's a guy to watch as well. Savannah, Georgia, what's not to like? It's beautiful down there. Matter of fact, we made some plans actually this week, Carlos, for winter. We're going to be in Florida for about 3 weeks. We made a couple weeks of reservations down there, and we're heading back out to Sedona. We're going to get to Southern Cal. So I'm getting anxious. We start talking about Savannah. We start talking about Hilton Head and these places. I'm getting nervous. I want to travel, Carlos. I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. Let's do it, man. You gotta get on your truck and start driving down there. So get ready.
I got a new truck too. I got the new one. Got the 2020 now. So we're ready to roll, man.
All right. That's good. Hey, with that, we wrap up our foregoal or the preview of this weekend's action. Now you have some words to us from Boyne.
Well, Carlos, as I mentioned earlier, the days are a wee bit shorter, the nights a wee bit cooler in northern Michigan, but that makes it perfect for fall golf at Boyne. 10 golf courses, 3 spas, indoor water park, a zip line, perfect weekend getaway for a fall color tour. The leaves are brilliant right now. I was up there last week. I'm in Toledo right now. I'm going back up tomorrow for a few days. The colors, the trees are absolutely beautiful. This is the peak time right now. If you want to go on a color tour, see some great, beautiful scenery up there in northern Michigan. Bring the entire family. Dad can play golf in the morning. Take a driving tour in the afternoon. Maybe even go over to Mackinac to go out on the island out there. Take a little boat trip on the ferry and go out there. For more information, visit Boyne, BOYNE.com/golf. That's Boyne, BOYNE.com/golf. Tell them Back Nine Report sent you. Carlos, back to you.
And now let's go to the par five news. So every week, Fred and I pick five topics of news worth mentioning. Yeah, last week it was one of them was the Aberdeen. I guess I wish they would have let us know. Anyway, let's move on. Let it go, Carlos. Let it go. So okay, the RNA Awards. Get us talk a foursome of British Open champions accepted invitations to become honorary members of the Royal Nation Golf Club of St. Andrews. Katrina Matthews, Ernie Els, Patty Harrington, and Dick Price join already an all-star list of past and present members that includes Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Tom Watson, Laura Davis, Annika Sorenstam, Peter Thompson, Roberto DiVincenzo, Renee Powell, Kel Nagel, and Louis Suggs. Fred, with 11 major championship victories between them, each have captained teams at the Ryder Cup, Solheim Cup, President's Cup. I mean, Harrington and Matthew are the current Ryder Cup and Solheim Cup captains. I mean, their resumes speak for themselves, and they're very worthy of joining that already stellar list of honorary members.
There was a name you mentioned there. It did kind of caught my ear real quick there. You just passed through there. Renee Powell. Did you mention Renee Powell as an honorary member of the RNA? She
Yes,
was one of the
cheers.
first 7 women that was asked to be. And guess where she's from, Carlos? Ohio.
Ohio,
What
Ohio.
can I tell you, man?
From East Canton, Ohio.
You can. She is a legend. I love Renee Powell. She's one of my favorite people. When I went over there to talk to her a couple years ago, I told her I was just going to be there for about an hour. We talked to her about 2.5 hours. I could have stayed longer, but I had to leave and go pick up my wife from a meeting that she was at. She's just a delight. She's seen so much history. It's fantastic. Anyhow, getting on to the matter at hand here, I got sidetracked there. It's kind of like, squirrel. I got to, I got AD&D or something. You got among these 4 people, you got 11 major championships. Matthews has 11 wins herself, including the 2009 win at the Women's British Open. She was a Solheim standout for the Europeans and was the captain of the 2019 European team when they won at Glen Eagles in her native Scotland. Ernie Els, what can you say? Oh my goodness, the Big Easy. 2 U.S. Open trophies, a pair of Open Championship claret jugs, a total of 19 PGA Tour wins and 29 European Tour wins. Yet he's number one ranked golfer in the world for a time. Off the course, maybe he's even more successful off the golf course, Carlos. He's raised millions, raised awareness for the Els for Excellent Center, and this helps autistic children. His programs are spread all across the world to help autistic children, raise millions and millions of dollars. Plus, his foundation in South Africa helps young golfers get started and become pros, and and have the money to travel to amateur events and get the training and all the coaching and things that they need. Patrick Harrington, it seems like we've been talking about this guy for 30 years. He's been around forever. He won the Open Championship twice, back to back, 2007, 2008. He also had a 2008 PGA right up here in Detroit at Oakland Hills. He's from Ireland. 31 professional wins, was #1 player in Europe in 2006. He's been a part of 6 Ryder Cup matches, was vice captain in 3, and now is the European captain for the 2021 European Ryder Cup match. It's going to be held at Whistling Straits, hopefully next fall. And then the final member of this group to get honorary membership to the RNA, Nick Price. Won 3 majors, including the 1994 Open Championship at Turnberry. He has 48 professional titles around the world, spent more than 40 weeks at #1 in the world golf ranking. Of course, he's out of Zimbabwe in Southern Africa. So great player, all 4 of them, very deserving, great in their own right. What more can I say? I like all 4 of these players. Katrina Matthew, I think, you know what? It's kind of like Angela Stanford. Not the most talent in the world. Never going to be, never going to be recognized as a Michelle Wie or a Lexi Thompson or something like that. Hits it like 3 miles. No. but they get the most out of their game. Katrina Matthew, very consistent, right there week after week, making cut after cut after cut, getting a check, right there. Just a steady pro, has done a great job in her career and did a great job captaining the European Solheim Cup team. So congratulations to all four, Carlos.
So you thought you got sidetracked. I'm gonna get sidetracked here now, because since we're talking about legends of the game, one of my three final putts. Now I'm gonna cut it to two because I'm gonna give you one, and that is the two legends of the game that I just mentioned on that list will be squaring off against each other as captains of next year's Ping Junior Solheim Cup, because the AJGA announced yesterday that Renee Powell will captain the 12-player U.S. team at the Sylvania Country Club in Toledo, Ohio. And we already know that the Ladies European Tour previously had announced that Anneke Sorenstam was leading the European. So great to see Renee Powell with those juniors there. I mean, I can just imagine the those players try to pick her brain and her trying to impart all that, because we already know that she had been the coach at Ohio and Ohio State University. So this is not something new for her. And I can just imagine those players getting all that knowledge from her and what she can impart into them. That's going to be just amazing, Fred. It's going to be amazing.
Carlos, I've written several articles about Renee, and I'll put in a thing in this month's issue about her being chosen to work with the Junior Solheim. Sylvania Country Club's a great golf course as well, Carlos. It's a fantastic golf course. SP Germain, who had a hand in building Inverness, Donald Ross gets the credit, but SP Germain was the president in 1902 when that land was bought, and he's also the president when Donald Ross was hired, and he and his friend William Rockefeller actually laid out the first holes there. But he also laid out he hired Willie Park, Willie Park Jr., who built Sylvania Country Club. So tremendous history there on those two golf courses, and I think the juniors are really going to love Sylvania Country Club. Fantastic place, and you just can't give enough honors to Renee Powell. She's seen so much in her career and just is a wonderful person, Carlos.
Definitely, and congratulations to her. Another accolade for her already stellar career. Hey, let's talk about the First Tee, which is an organization. We've talked about them before. We love what they do. They're dedicated to helping youth stay active. They help them build character all through the game of golf. They recently received a 9.5 million grant from the PGA Tour Superstore and the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation. This money will help the First Tee reach more children across the United States and expand its curriculum for teenage participants in particular. So in 2011, the First Tee's sphere of influence included around 260,000 kids. Now by 2019, that number had grown to over 1.5 million, thanks to continued support from the PGA Tour Superstore and the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation. Nowadays, the First Tee maintains a presence at 150 chapters, 1,600 youth centers, 10,000 schools. New teen-centric programming is planned for next year. That includes an annual 5-week leadership development program offered to over 1,300 youth that's going to be at the PGA Tour Superstores. Fred, 40 more will be chosen each year to participate in what is going to be a week-long summit at Montana's Weed Creek Ranch. So, I mean, just amazing the job this foundation does, and more power to them now with this grant, and great timing for it.
Yeah, we saw, when they were having the Drive On Championship, the LPGA Tour announced, $50,000 worth of grants that they were giving to the First Tees in Ohio. And they're kind of doing that as they go around the country. Like I'm sure in New Jersey this week, the LPGA is giving money to the First Tees in New Jersey. I'm sure they're doing that. But this is, 9.5 million. I mean, this is serious money for the First Tee to get this. You know, they have the 9 core values and the 9 healthy habits. And the first tee has really devoted themselves to working with inner city kids and kids with maybe not the opportunities that other kids have to play golf or be involved. And so they're trying to build these core values in these kids and provide a place that they can go learn a little bit about golf, but learn more about life. And so Arthur Blank really believes in the First Tee program and what they're doing, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. So there, as you say, like here in Toledo, the First Tee chapter is very strong here, and they're serving about 8,000 kids right here in Toledo. And they're building a new $5 million facility right here. So I don't know if any of this money will find its way to help with that, but this is going to be a center where kids can go to help with their homework, to get tutoring, to learn how to caddy, to learn how to play the game. You know, so it's going to be a wide encompassing kind of thing. It's like more like an academy. It's going to be a really cool thing. But that's the kind of thing the First Tees are doing all over. So, and Blank says he has 3 ranches in Montana. 2 of them the Montana First Tee has been closed down. So he's going to use his ranches to reopen the Montana First Tee programs up there. And then the one they maintain as a private, and they take employees up there and have meetings and things like that. And they're going to use that for this nationwide training program that you mentioned, where they're going to bring kids in, and plus First Tee administrators can go to get training and things like that. So this is kind of a wide, all-encompassing kind of thing. He's using his facilities and he's using his money. So First Tee, great program, and good for him. Really, really, really well done. Well played, sir.
Definitely. Hey, 9-time major winner, Gary Player. He's one of the greatest to have ever played the game. And he, since he retired,
you don't believe it, just ask him.
Yeah, he'll let you know. He'll let you know. So since he retired, he has turned his hand to architecture since his playing ends days ended. Now he has designed tens of courses around the world, including the Gary Player Country Club in Sun City, South Africa, the Edinburgh course at Wentworth, the Indian Open venue, DLF Country Club, and Thrashing Cliffs in Bulgaria. We mentioned about him last week. He was making an appearance at the Tiger Woods' latest design, Paynes Valley in Missouri, during the televised Paynes Valley Cup, where he went on a rant. I was watching that. I was like, wow, he went on a rant. Oh, hear me out. I'm not going to judge anything yet. But he went on a rant about trees and how we should stop cutting them down and plant more. He even started talking about, you got to find these people that are doing that. He talked about having being a farmer, the importance of water, irrigation and all this stuff. His late brother Ian becoming an international conservationist, all the great golf courses. He said, hey, look at Augusta, Pine Valley, Royal Melbourne, one of Jack's courses, Murfield. All are tree lined. By the way, he mentioned that Jack builds beautiful golf courses. Fred, he also mentioned that by doing this, it contributes as the same effect as cutting down the Amazon trees. What's your take?
Strongly disagree. Gary, I think, is starting to get a little senile in his 80s, I believe.
He's in good physical shape, man. I mean,
I know, but he's a little. I think he's a little off base here. I have to disagree with him a little bit. And all due respect, Gary Player, great player, has done a lot for golf. So this is kind of a little minor thing, but first of all, he designed the par 3 mountain course at Big Cedar Lodge in Branson. And he was on hand last week for the Paynes Valley Cup that featured Tiger, Justin Thomas, Justin Rose, and Rory McIlroy. Jack, Nicklaus, and Gary Player also played along. And after, Gary was asked whether he was more proud of his playing career or his golf course designs. Well, he started off slow and built up a considerable rant, as you mentioned, about this current trend of cutting trees down. So many trees at famous golf venues. So Uh, First, he mentioned that the need in his designs not to use too much water and too much fertilizer. And then he really got going. He says, I'm a tree hugger. I'm a tree hugger. I don't want to cut down all these trees. And da, 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 da. And so he went off about this. And so, and that's all well and good, but you contradict yourself there with two things. First, if you want less water, trees suck up water like crazy, right? They spread those roots out all over the place and they suck up water. So they're going to kill the grass. If it gets hot and dry, the grass is drying because the trees go deep and they're sucking up all the water. If it rains, the trees catch them on the leaves. It doesn't make it to the grass. So you can't have two things. You put fertilizer on the grass, you want it for the grass, the trees suck it up, okay? So you got to put more water and more and fertilizer on the grass to make it grow if you got a bunch of trees. So you can't have both things. You want a bunch of trees, you're going to have more, you're going to use more water and you're going to use more fertilizer. So I too, as recently as 2007 and maybe even later, when Jack Nicklaus renovated the Scarlet Course at OSU and removed thousands of trees, and the first time I went back to play it, I was just, oh my God, where's my golf course? What did they do to it? But I have since come to understand the need to remove trees from some of these old golf courses. When they were built, the trees weren't there. They weren't as massive as they become today. They completely changed the routing and play of a golf course. It deviates from what it's really supposed to be because there's too many trees and they grow out too much. The real reason, like I said, though, is that trees and their massive root system rob the course of water for the grass and destroy a fairway and rough. So Gary's a little contradictory in his argument there. He's just I know he's a designer and I know he knows this, but you can't have both. You can't have trees and you can't have less water and less fertilizer. It will not work. The grass is going to die if you try to do that, if it gets under distress. So if you want more trees, plant them in land that can be used, that's not arable land. It's hillside or different places. Plant your trees there. You don't need to plant more trees on a golf course. We talked about Sylvania Country Club just a minute ago, Carlos, for the Junior Solheim. Sylvania Country Club is a perfect example. Beautiful golf course, but there's so many trees there. They've grown out over the years and they've changed the routing and made the course play much different. Besides that, it stresses the golf course. They're taking trees out. They're routinely doing that as they have time, as they have the money to do it. Oakmont. So you want to go the other way. We've had Bob Ford on the show a couple times, and he was a longtime head pro at Oakmont, and he was vehemently against taking trees out of Oakmont, one of the most revered golf courses in America. And today you go out there, I mean, there's like 2 trees on the whole golf course. They took out over 3,000 trees there and pretty much laid it bare of any trees. Now, they probably went too far there. They could have left a few trees on that golf course that would have given it some character, helped delineate some of the holes a little bit. And also maybe the trees help cut down on the wind just a little bit, gives it a little bit of a windbreak. So there's the 2 examples of golf courses, one with too many trees, one with not enough trees where they went too far. But to have a program that includes annual or systematic taking trees down out of your golf course is a good thing, Carlos. Some places go overboard just a little bit, but Gary, to make a blanket statement, you need more trees. That's not quite right.
Okay, so we can say that we're gonna close the Par 5 news with 3 fun things, right? Because that was a little funny anyway. Now, if you think that was fun, look at this next 2. The first one that we're going to talk about. This year has been a great year for encouraging news headlines, but every now and then, one of them is actually refreshingly funny. Last week, we got one of those because the Doobie Brothers, that beloved rock band, is suing Bill Murray. Why on earth are they doing that? You might
Just
ask.
another young Cinderella story.
Yeah, because he's been using one of their greatest hits. Listen to the music I see, even with rhythm and all that. In ads for his line of golf shirts, 0 hugs given, and without paying them. Thus, that begin what you can say the funniest rock band on movie star fight since Steely Dan sued Owen Wilson. Now, Murray, via his lawyer, has responded, and just as the Doobies' cease and desist letter wasn't exactly serious, neither was Murray's attorney. And if you want some insight on it, I mean, the Doobie Brothers, like I said, the Bill Murray's polo shirts are 0 hugs given. I'm just going to tell you that the beginning of it, it says, and I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Dear Mr. Murray, we're writing on behalf of our clients, the Doobie Brothers. The Doobie Brothers performed and recorded the song Listen to the Music, which Tom Johnston of the Doobie Brothers wrote. It's a fine song. I know you agree because you keep using it in ads for your 0 hugs given golf shirts. However, given that you haven't paid to use it, maybe you should change the company name to 0 bucks given." And it goes on and on, Fred. But the Doobie Brothers did the Bill Murray, his attorney responded also in a funny way, and this is all tongue in cheek, and it was just I know it's all in fun. They're getting anyway the attention they wanted. With that, they're getting more than any that Bill Murray can ever pay them. So I think it's just clever on both parts there.
Love the Doobie Brothers, Carlos. They're on my playlist. Listen to them all the time. Really, really like them. And I think this is pretty funny. I'm sure Bill Murray got a kick out of it. He's going to have to throw in a few bucks to the Doobie Brothers' way for using that music. Somebody screwed up in his organization, not getting approval to do that. They should have been a little smarter than that. But yeah, it's been kind of funny. If you get a chance, listeners out there, just Google Bill Murray lawsuit with Doobie Brothers and read the comebacks and how they're going back and forth on that. Lawyers do have a sense of humor. Who knew? So, but Caddyshack, Bill Murray, the great caddy from Caddyshack, going to be forever famous for that role. Yeah, little lawsuit in the news, in the golf news, Carlos. Just lighten the mood a little bit.
And if you want to lighten it even more, I mean, I read this one and I had to even Google it and see the video because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. How in the world? Well, I guess they don't watch sports. I guess that's what it is.
They're nerds.
Because
Those are nerds on Jeopardy. They
they
don't.
don't know what to. Yeah, final Jeopardy question about Phil Mickelson proved too difficult for the contestant featured on Friday's episode of the game show. All three contestants, all three, failed to identify the 44 times, I'm just mentioning, PGA Tour winner. They asked them, hey, can you name the oldest active sportsman on the Forbes 2020 list of the world's highest paid athletes? And I well, there's one that you might say, well, maybe he was thinking about him, may not remember his last name or anything. But what I am is like, dudes, where can you just say any actual names? I mean, one of them says, who is Jagger? Okay, maybe he was talking about Yaromir Jagger from the Pittsburgh Penguins and that maybe, but hey, he's not that old anyway. The other one said, who is Mr. Magoo? Hey, that one definitely didn't even know. Mr. Magoo, come on, that's what is this? The only one I'm going to give some credit to is the one that says, who's Phil N? Yeah, maybe. I hope he was trying to say Mickelson, and that's why he was there. But it was funny because then Mickelson, who, by the way, he ranked 25 on that Forbes list with $40.8 million in earnings. He was admittedly disappointed by the responses because he tweeted afterwards and he said, and I'm going to quote him, just when I think I've arrived, I was the answer to tonight's final Jeopardy question. I realized I still have ways to go. They all got it wrong. So Fred, Phil, man, yeah, I bet if it would have been Tiger Woods, I mean, they would have gotten it right. You think?
Phil turned professional in 1992 after a stellar amateur career, which included a PGA Tour win while he was still an amateur at Arizona State. In his 28-year professional career, Lefty ranks second in total money earned, just behind Tiger with $92 million. He's earned $92 million in prize money. That's not including all the sponsorship money that he's been paid over his career, which is probably at least twice that, and probably maybe more like 3 or 4 times. The guy was ranked inside the top 50 in the world for 25 consecutive years, not weeks, not days, 25 consecutive years in the top 50 with 42 PGA Tour victories, including 5 major championships. You would think even casual golf fans would know the answer to this immediately, but not the nerds that compete on Jeopardy, evidently. They're not watching golf or not paying any attention to what's going on with that. So, yeah, as sports fans, we look at that and think, well, that should have been a pretty easy answer, but oh well, nobody got it, Carlos.
Nobody did, and Phil may have been the most sad of all people here. But anyway, with that, we wrap up our Par 5 news. And now we're going to talk about the topic of the week, the practice range. Every week, Fred and I pick a topic, and each one of us take our own shots at it. This week, we have to talk about Mike Davis. Last Tuesday, we talked briefly about the USGA's announcement that their CEO, Mike Davis, was stepping down at the end of next year to pursue his lifelong passion, which is building golf courses. Something that he has been fascinated since he was a kid. When he was, he would doodle his own golf courses, his own golf holes on a notepad. So today, Fred and I will be looking at what legacy he leaves behind at the USGA, what to expect from them and from them post Mike Davis, what things are still lingering from him, what is he gonna left undone, and what is he gonna do afterwards. We're gonna try to cover everything that we can here about Mike Davis. I mean, we could do a whole show on Mike Davis stuff because it's that long a career. And I know, maybe there will be a Bronx cheer from the distance rollback community, including Fred, or from those critical of some of his U.S. Open course setups. Shinnecock 2018 comes to mind. No, I'm just kidding, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah.
But his legacy with the USGA really remains worthy of high praise anyway. His tenure rivals those of his immediate predecessor, David Fay, and maybe former USGA executives such as PJ Boatwright, Frank Hannigan, and Joe Day. He became the USGA's 7th executive director back in 2011, succeeding David Fay. That role segue into that of a CEO in 2016. So he's basically been the CEO for the last 4 years. But by the time that he retires, he would have been in the USGA for 32 years. Before he took over as executive director, he served as the head of course setup for the US Open starting in 2006. I mean, he was praised for his introduction of graduated rough, drivable par fours, the use of multiple teeing grounds to challenge players to take a more conceptual approach to how to play the holes. In subsequent years, however, players called into question setups at Chambers Bay in 2015, Erin Hills in 2017, Shinnecock Hills in 2018, and Davis he had to hand over those duties to Joan Buttinghammer last year. There was also the frustrating handling of rules issue involving the eventual U.S. Open winner at 2016 at Oakmont, Dustin Johnson. That really caused Davis and the USGA to receive condemnation. Now, the USGA under Davis made significant strides in several areas, including the modernization of the rules of golf, the launch of the World Handicap System, the creation of the USGA Foundation, expansion of the USGA footprint with a second golf house location set for Pinehurst, North Carolina, and starting 4 new championships, the U.S. Seniors Women's Open, the men's and women's amateur 4-ball championships, which replaced the amateur public links championship, and probably starting in 2022 or maybe 2023 would be an event for golfers with disabilities. All that, during his tenure. But also during his tenure, the USGA, along with the RNA, adopted a rule that prohibits anchoring a club while making a stroke. More recently, again in partnership with the RNA, the USGA initiated the Distance Insights Project, which is a comprehensive study on the impact of distance in golf that was released earlier this year. Now, we know because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the governing bodies have delayed the next phase of the project, specific topics of further research. But that delay, David said, likely means that decisions based on the study might come after he has departed. But Fred, finally, let's not also forget, it was Davis and his team that orchestrated the $1.1 billion deal with Fox Sports back in 2013 for USGA television rights. Of course, since then, those rights have been reverted back to NBC Golf Channel. But that, in a nutshell, is a lot of the things, a high level of what Mike Davis, under his tenure, what the USGA has done. Yes, there has been criticizing, there has been some controversies and all that, but we cannot take back that really a lot of great things have come down from his tenure there at the USGA.
And Carlos, you did a great job highlighting the high points there of the really major things that have happened while Mike Davis has been around. First of all, I want to make the point that, Mike Davis was a pretty fair golfer to begin with. He won the 1982 Pennsylvania State Junior Championship, played NCAA Division I golf at Georgia Southern, who's turned out some pretty fair golfers down there at Georgia Southern. So he was a pretty good golfer as a young man. And I'm sure he still plays a pretty decent game today. He joined the USGA in 1990 as an assistant manager of championship relations. Working with getting everything that needs to be done to get a championship going. And in 1997, he became the USGA championship director and gained that reputation as a stellar setup guy for the USGA championships. And he really did make them better. And I have to, he was really good, but it just kind of like, I got to keep getting better and I kept doing this. And they kept tinkering and tinkering till they finally just went over the top and just made it absolutely ludicrous. And you mentioned the ones, Chambers Bay, Erin Hills, and Shinnecock. After Shinnecock, I talked to a friend of mine and said, I think it's time for Mike Davis to go. And he says, yeah. He said, a lot of people around the building said the same thing. So I think this has been brewing for a while, Carlos. And Mike sees an opportunity to do the thing that he really wants to do, the golf course design. Now, the second point to that is when you're running an operation like the USGA, it's a $200 million a year operation, right? Spread all across the country. They got their fingers in a lot of different things. They run some really great championships. The U.S. Open, the U.S. Women's Open, the U.S. Senior Open, the U.S. Amateur, the U.S. Women's Amateur, the Juniors, the four ball, all the stuff that they do, they really run good championships. Now, they've caught a lot of grief, especially from the pro PGA Tour players, about the U.S. Open. They feel it's the poorest run tournament that they play all year. It's a big check. They like going for the big check, but the guys that are running it aren't really, they're volunteers, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they have other careers, they do this in their spare time. So they caught a lot of grief for mishandling some of the tournaments. And you pointed out one of the biggest things was in 2016, that rules violation on the putting green for Dustin Johnson. First of all, the USGA set those greens up way too fast. The greens normally at Oakmont are faster than any place else in the world, so they didn't need to be made even faster, and they were. And then screwing up Shinnecock the way they screwed that up in 2018, that was just kind of icing on the cake. So that's the two really big problems. Now, to offset that, and let's turn it around the other way, Mike was there. Mike Davis was there when they did the contract with Fox for the $100 million a year. That's just a heck of a contract that they negotiated for that. And as you say, now it's with NBC. NBC has taken it over. Fox wanted out, and NBC took it over. But that pumps in $100 million a year to the USGA. That's a really big deal. Carlos, one thing that you didn't mention is that the last 3 years, they have been on a big program to consolidate operations. And so like here in Ohio, there were 5 USGA district golf associations. Toledo just merged with Northern Ohio to make that now 4. And so there's Columbus, Dayton, and Cincinnati. So there's 4 left now in Cleveland. But they're working to try and bring those all together, maybe under one umbrella. We don't, maybe 2, we just don't need 4 U.S. District Golf Associations in Ohio. In other states, they're consolidating those. They've brought them up to date using computers. They're all linked now. They're called Alliance Partners. And so it's I think in the long run, it's going to make it better. Nobody's really talking about this. We talked about a little bit ago, or a few years ago when they started this initiative, wondering if it was a good thing or not. I think it's probably going to turn out to be a good deal, but it created a lot of upheaval in the USGA community to these associations, which are the lifeblood, because that's where the people play. That's where the people pay their dues, their memberships to the USGA. I meant to look up today, and I forgot to look up how many members there are, how many actual USGA members there are. I'm sure it's probably something like 4 or 5 million. I'm not really sure. But all those people paying their $30 or $40 a year, whatever USGA membership is now, to get the US Open cap and just say you're a USGA member. They get a lot of money from that, and they're doing some good things, putting money back into junior golf, into First Tee, through their foundation and some of those things. I still think they can do more. I just think there's a lot more they could be doing. The rules thing that they came out with in 2016, that was a big deal. We talked to that. It seemed like we talked about rules stuff every week for like 6 or 7 months in 2016. And that was a big deal, getting that thing done. The thing that's left on the table that's not done, that probably won't be done before Davis gets out of office, is the distance thing. What are they going to do? Are they going to go with the ball with less spin? Are they going to limit driver heads? Are they going to limit shafts? Are they going to limit the ball somehow? Make it a lower compression, whatever. They're going to do something. I'm sure they're going to do something, because they can't have Bryson DeChambeau muscling his way to a U.S. Open championship, much like they couldn't have Adam Scott, Ernie Els, and whatchamacallit, with the long putters doing well in the U.S. Opens and the USGA championships back before they went to the anchoring ban. So Mike Davis has presided over a lot of change. What is he going to be known for, Carlos? He was the 7th director, but he's the first CEO ever of the USGA. He presided over the largest TV contract, that $100 million a year that Fox originally did. He presided over that and his team to get that done. What mistakes have been made? I think we kind of talked about those. We documented those. He just ended up going too far. I think the other mistake is that USGA does not hire high-profile personnel, administrative personnel in their office. I think they need to go to the PGA Tour or the PGA of America and hire some of their people to come in and run the tournaments. I don't think they have a good program for that. They do a pretty good job, but I think they can do a lot better. And I referenced, say, Kerry Haigh, the way he sets up a PGA championship, right? Kerry Haigh gets it right every time. Every time he gets it right. USGA, they did a pretty good job. It looked like to me like they did a pretty good job with Wingfoot this year. The course was tough, but it was playable. Bryson DeChambeau showed it could be gotten if you really wanted to get to. Some guys had some good days. They weren't able to string it together for all 4 rounds, but some guys had some pretty good days in there. So it was playable. But for a few years there, they really screwed it up bad. And I think that's what led to a lot of, I don't know, people turning against the USGA a little bit. So the bottom line question, Carlos, is did the USGA get better or worse under Mike Davis's leadership? Well, to me, that's a really good question, and one that's probably going to be better answered in a few years. I don't know that we can tell you that right now. But on the whole, Carlos, and I like to take shots at the USGA, but on the whole, I think Mike Davis has left the USGA in a much better place than when he took it over. It's a very big bureaucracy with its fiefdoms and its segments. The people that volunteer and work at the USGA are a little too full of themselves sometimes, and they get it wrong sometimes when they really need to get it right. They have and are still criticized for the running of the US Open. Professionals will all say that they need to use more PGA Tour personnel to help run their events. And I think they're probably right about that. The rules problem with Dustin Johnson at Oakmont 2016 was absolutely ridiculous. Plus, there's just been some other problems over the years with setups, and you documented those. So, Carlos, in the whole, Mike Davis has done a pretty good job. You can't get them all right in a job like that. So if I had to give him a rating, I'd probably give him an A-. And on the kind of career, on a 32-year career, that's pretty good, I would say. Wouldn't you, Carlos?
I agree. He had a very tough job to do. It's not easy, and the membership is 700,000 there.
I thought it was more than that. I'm surprised it's only 700. I thought it was more than that.
So, I don't know. But the thing is that the tournaments, like you mentioned, there's a lot of tournaments, a lot of organizations, a lot of sections. It's a big organization, and there's a lot of money to handle. But especially with the big USGA tournaments, it's difficult to try to please all these pro players to have it their way. At some point also, you just want to be your unique USGA setting. You cannot just vouch because they want it this way. You have to go that way. Hey, you're playing my tournament now. This is the way we set it up. I know they could have done a better job. But again, I don't think it's that big of a deal to bring in PGA Tour people to be here. Now, Davis is planning to stay on to assist what is going to be an orderly transition and assist his incoming replacement. That's a big deal because whoever is going to come is going to be just the second CEO. According to the organization, it will set the search wheels in motion for a new CEO, and maybe it already started. That person is expected to be named prior to the start of next year's US Open at Torrey Pine in June. I really don't believe for a moment that the organization is simply going to promote from within, despite doing it so previously with Davis. In a sense, I see that they have, if you see the elevated business responsibilities that come with the CEO title, which Davis took in 2016, I believe that the USGA needs to look outside its headquarters in Fair Hills, New Jersey. And the reason is because, and we mentioned this, I don't necessarily think it has to be PGA Tour, but it has to be somebody that has some business acumen to look at this.
I got a name for you, Carlos. You want a name?
Don't say Michael One. Don't say Michael One. I want him in the LPGA.
I know, but that's the guy that I would want. I would want to see him at the USGA.
I mean, he would be perfect anywhere he would go. But I strongly think they're going to go outside. They're going to go outside and find. And it's even conceivable for the new CEO to arrive from some other realm of golf industry, like you're saying, or maybe another major professional sport. It's not out of the realm. We're sure that Davis is going to continue to oversee the early stages of the organization's recent golf house Pinehurst investment. Um, he will also, I'm sure, that will try to pursue some sort of resolution, or I don't think it'll happen, but it may be a way forward for the Distance Insights project. That was like a baby for him. And he will continue to maintain watch over the ever-changing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the USGA interests. So that with that. Now, what do we expect Davis in the future? This has been a long passion. He was in the course setup. He's going to be now with Tom Fazio the second to create new golf course architecture company, Fazio and Davis Golf Design. He's 55, and in his own words, he said, I'm closer to 60 than 50. Sure, you're never going to go back. But it was the right time to do it. He said he eventually plans to move to Jupiter, Florida, where he and he announced he and Cece are building a home. His wife, Fazio, whose father Jim and Uncle Tom our course designers are based there. So already Davis and Fazio have begun working together at the Chambersburg Country Club, which Davis' boyhood home course. He admits, I mean, he still has a lot to learn. And of course, even though his tenure there at the USGA has provided him with a considerable education in course design, but still there's a lot of ground for him to cover. But Fred, just to close it, the USGA definitely has to be in better shape. Remains to be seen what is going to be happening, because there's a lot of things that he set in motion that we will just see in the next few years. Who's going to come out? I really hope it's not Michael Wan. But anyway, I think it's going to be somebody from the outside, known person with proven track. And for him on his course design, like everything, I think it's just a learning curve, but he has a good foundation to become successful at it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see who they pick. We'll be watching, and when it happens, we'll be reporting on it. But we'll get a pick on somebody else and kick them around a little bit, Carlos.
We definitely will. And with that, we wrap up our practice range, our topic of the week. Well, we gave you a lot of good insight about Mike Davis, our own opinions on it, and where we expect the USGA to be in the near future, and some on his future as well. Now, our final putts, and we talked about the funny lawsuit from the Doobie Brothers and Bill Murray, and there's a serious one now, because according to a report from the Deseret News, Tony Finau is being sued for more than $60 million by former business associate. The lawsuit was filed last week in Utah's 3rd District Court. Claims the former business associate Molonai Hola, owner of Icon Sports, provided financial support to Finau and his family for several years, but was never paid back. Finau's brother Gipper, his father Gary, and the agent Christopher Armstrong, and the Wasserman Media Group are all named in the suit as well. The expenses that Ola is claiming, according to the suit, is $592,371 with 37 cents. And Hola is asking for that amount in compensatory damages of at least $16 million plus interest. Now, the number represents approximately 20%, that's what he says, of Tony's and Gipper's career's earning. The percentage Ola claims he was previously promised. Now, to me, I don't know. I'm a numbers guy, and something that don't add up. I was checking. Tony Finau has earned in his career just a little under 20 million, 19.955 in his career. So 20% is 3.99. This guy's asking for 16 million. So that's 4 times. That's a lot of interest there. So I don't know there, but anyway.
Well, you got to figure off the course income also, Carlos. So if he earned, if he won 16 million, and if he was supposed to get 20%, that's 5 times, right? So that's 34, 68, and 16. So that's what, about 80 million that he's saying that Tony has earned. in on-course and off-course income, and he wants his 20% of that. So I'm sure they'll probably settle this out of court for something, you know, that probably mirrors. He'll get his 592,000 plus maybe, you know, another 500,000. So somewhere about $1 million or $1.5 million or something. But yeah, I don't know. He's probably got it. But the bigger thing to me, Carlos, is that Tony was getting all this money as an amateur, right? He was getting his fee paid at the David Ledbetter Academy. He was getting travel to golf tournaments. He was getting, you know, all this stuff. His parents were getting the mortgage paid or something. And so that's a little more disconcerting to me. And, you know, the Phenoms probably do owe this guy some money somewhere along the line, but probably not 16 million.
Yeah, I don't think it'll get even close to that. But like you mentioned, I was thinking about $2 million and just go ahead and don't do anything else.
They'll
But
settle.
yeah, they'll settle out. But we'll know and we'll let you know. And Fred, you will talk about Tiger Woods. So as a segue to that, his Scotty Cameron putter is arguably the most famous flat stick in the world. He has used it to win 14 of his 15 majors after using a Terry Loom Scotty to win his maiden major at the 97 Masters. I mean, with such a distinctive and iconic putter, he has had plenty of backups over the years, and they're pretty valuable. I tell you, he would get one or two backups each year to test and keep if anything ever happened to the Elder Wand, as he's sometimes called. So Tiger's original is estimated to be worth between $3 to $5 million, and his backups fetch quite large fees too. You know, with one of his backups from 2001 recently reaching record-breaking numbers at an auction. His 2001 Scotty sold for $154,928.40 through the Golden Age auctions, over 100,000 more than other of his backups just 2 years ago. So I mean, it's incredible that somebody would pay so much for a putter. I know it's from Tiger and all that stuff, but man, that's a lot of money for a flat stick, Fred.
Somebody's got way too much money, Carlos. I'd like to meet some of these people sometime. I just need a little bit. I don't, you know, 50,000 here, 100,000. I could be happy for a long time with that. No problem. Hey, Carlos, speaking of Tiger, he committed to play in the title defense at the Zozo Championship, which has been moved from Japan to the United States. So that's coming up. That'll be about the only time we'll see Tiger this fall, except for the Masters in November. The Ryder Cup is only 1 year away, Carlos. It was originally scheduled for last week, actually. Blew right by. We missed it. Dustin Johnson, bad. Bryson DeChambeau, Morikawa, Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas, and Webb Simpson are the top 6 right now, with Xander Schauffele, Patrick Reed, Tony Finau, Daniel Berger, Matthew Wolff, and Gary Woodland, the next 6. Just out right now are my guy, Kevin Kisner, Harris English, and Tiger Woods. I'll bet Tiger would be an invite. What do you think? A captain's choice. I really think that would happen. Carlos, that's all I got for you tonight. Michigan Golf Journal will be out, the new one, the October issue next week. We've got some new stuff on Back Nine Report TV coming up all the time. Check that out. If you get a chance, log on to OhioGolfJournal.com. We got some great articles in there, great information, travel stuff. We got it all going on, Carlos. If it's golf, we got it all the time.
Well, Back Niners, that will wrap up another week of the Back Nine Report. Thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest on the world of golf. Don't forget to see us again next week on YouTube, or if you miss it, you can hear us on the audio version on TuneIn. If you haven't done so, follow the show on Twitter. Our ID is at Back Nine Report with the number 9 in the middle. My name is Carlos Torres, along with Fred Altvater. We wish you to be happy, be blessed, and enjoy the great game of golf. Happy golfing, everybody.
Hope we see you on the Back Nine.